Hi, this is Gary. Welcome to today's video. So today we're going to take a look at some notebooks that I've bought recently, and we're going to see how they perform with various fountain pens. The notebooks I've got is this one. This is a cheap notepad. It was a set of 3 for $5 from Kmart. I've got a black and red notebook which is Oxford optic paper. This one is all the way from the UK. I've got an Otto Dot Journal. This one is from Officeworks. Then the last one is this. This is a Galen leather The Everyday book, all the way from Turkey. Join me now down on the mat. We'll take a look at these notepads. We'll see how the ink performs, and then I'll let you know what I think of each of them. So welcome down to the mat. The first book we're going to look at is this one. This is the Galen leather The Everyday book. This has got 52 GSM Tomoe river paper. Just going to open it up to the page I'm going to use. Get this lined up so we can see it nicely. That's a bit better, isn't it? So this paper, I say it's 52 GSM Tomoe river. There are 200 sheets, which is 40 pages. The paper itself is blank. What it does come with are these. So we've got squares, 2 sizes, and we've got lines with 2 sizes. For today, I'm going to be using this smaller side. So this gives me 26 lines. The larger side, which is 10 millimeters, I only get 18. So say for today, we're going to use this. Just going to slot that under, and then because of the thinness of this paper, I can see them guidelines coming through, which means that I get some nice clean sheets on here. So what I'm going to do is, on this one only, I'm going to write with each of the pens and do the tests so you can actually see it being done real. The other 3 pads, I've already done it, but we're just going to take a look at them and discuss what I think of them. So let's kick it off. We start off with a TWSBI. This is an Eco, and it's got an extra fine nib. The ink, Van Diemen, Devil's Black. I like this ink. It's a really nice dark black, and as you can see, it looks really nice coming from this extra fine nib. And I will be honest, although I do a different pens in use each month with different pens, I've always got this inked up with this beautiful black ink. So if I ever need to sign anything or fill in a form, I've got this black ink there ready to go. Let's look at drying times. So we're going to go for immediate first. You know, we expect that to be fairly wet. Now I'm going to wait for 10 seconds. So there's a little bit of a difference, isn't there? 30 seconds. Then finally 1 minute. And after a minute, well, there's still a lot of wetness coming through, although I do expect it. Remember, this is Tomoe river paper. The next pen we're going to use is this one here. This is a Delight New Moon 2. It's a beautiful coloured ink. Look at that. I thought, shall I start writing? I thought, no, I'll show you the pen. This is so pretty to look at. You know, you've got all those different colours, which I hope are coming through on the camera. So we've got here a Delight New Moon 2. Can't spell today. This has got a fine nib. In here, I've got Diamine, Ancient Copper. Lovely ink this, really nice colour. Usually got a fair bit of shading, so that's one of the things when we come to look in a little bit more detail, we'll look at that. Our drying times, so immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. Then finally 1 minute. There we go, after a minute. Similar to that black one, there's still a fair bit of wetness there, isn't there? My next pen, I've got to be honest, this is another pretty pen. This is a Narwhal Stool Kill. And look at that. Isn't that a gorgeous colouring in it? Here we go with Narwhal. Stool Kill. This has got a medium nib. The ink, another diamine one. This time it's marine. Again, another nice coloured ink. What I've tried to do with my ink selection is pick a number of different tones so we can see how the darker ones work and how some of these lighter ones work as well. Our drying times, immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, then finally 1 minute. And after a minute, well, that one's dry. Pen number 4. This is Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. Wow, isn't that a long way? And this has got a medium nib. The ink in here is Diamine Ordinil. I've recently changed the ink in this pen. It was Diamine Sargasso C, but I've now got this one. Just look at that. I think that's a really nice match for that ink. We've got loads of different blues in here, and that's really picking up in that gorgeous ink. Drying times, immediate, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, then finally 1 minute. After a minute, well, there's still a fair bit of wetness in that one as well. So our final pen is going to be this beauty. This is a TWSBI Draco. Again, another pretty looking pen, I've got to be honest. I think all the pens, really apart from that TWSBI, they're all pretty looking pens. Here we go. This is a TWSBI Draco. Nearly forgot its name then. The nib on here is broad. My ink is another Diamine one. I know, apart from the first one, they're all Diamines. And this one is called Red Dragon. Another really nice ink. As I said, I'm trying to make sure I'm using different colours to see how they work. If I was trying to be really scientific about this, well, I would have actually used the same colour. But I'm not. I'm trying to enjoy using the pens, and I enjoy them because of them different colours. Let's take a look at drying times. So immediate. Yeah, that's fairly wet, isn't it? But it's a broad nib. 10 seconds. 30 seconds. Then finally 1 minute. And after a minute there, it's still wet again. So that's the 5 pens and inks that I'm going to be using in my testing. As I said, I've written them in here just so you can see them and see them writing. I'm going to put this book aside for a few minutes so they get a chance to properly dry, and we'll take a look at the other ones, and I'll do a quick discussion about each as we look at them. Then we'll come back to this book in the end. So the first one we're going to look at is this. This is sold in a pack of 3. They were called Craft, and it's from Kmart, which is a large store here in Australia. I'm calling this my cheap notebook because it is. Each book has got 48 sheets, which is 96 pages. And when I bought them, there was one ruled, which is what we're using here. There was a dot grid and there was a blank one. To buy this, I say it was $5 for the 3. So I've calculated that to 2 cents per page. So that is 2 cents worth of paper coming down here. So if we look at the top here, I've put on the top of each one, that's 48 sheets, which is 96 pages. And then I've counted the number of lines, so there's 30 lines per page in here. As I say, I'm just trying to keep things nice and consistent. So if we take a look at this, yes, the ink goes down all right. There's quite a lot of ghost in there. There's no real bleed through, maybe a little tiny bit trying to come through here from the Draco. but you can still see that through the paper. You know, it's ghosting terribly. Does it stop me using both sides of the paper? No, it doesn't. I find this paper quite rough, and what that means is I try and keep this book just for my, well, to be honest, my cheaper pens. So I'm trying to avoid using things like the bottom three, the Schuylkill, the Momento Zero Grande and the Draco. I don't normally use in this book, but I would use the New Moon 2 because it's a relatively cheap pen compared to these other ones. Let's take a look at how it's worked. So although it's cheap paper, I don't see very much in the way of feathering. It seems to be that it's not causing many problems with that. It looks nice when I'm writing with it. I'm just going to flip back here. You know, yes, I know it's just letters. It was me trying stuff out. But on none of these have I seen feathering, and this is with a wide variety of different pens. This one here was a stub nib, and it still looks all right. So yeah, not a bad notebook. I use it for rough work, as you may have seen, and for really practicing my writing, because it's something, it doesn't really matter if I mess up on it. If we look at here, a little tiny bit of shading coming through. We've got slight amounts on that greater than and less than sign. Not very much though. It's really flat, and the ink looks flat no matter what ink I use. There's no real character comes through. It just looks that same uniform, flat, to be honest, uninteresting. Drying times, not too bad. You know, here, that 30 seconds for that one to be dry, and for that Twisby Red Dragon. So drying times aren't too bad. They're not stellar. So if you're going to be using this for taking notes, well, it's cheap. The drying, not too bad. Looks okay, as I say, just not interesting. And at 2 cents a page, fairly affordable. The next one we're going to look at is this. This is a black and red. This is an A5 notepad. Now, when I quote the price, it's not including postage. I cannot find anywhere on Australia where it sells this size book. The only ones I can find are A4 and B5. But obviously, for my folio, my Galen leather folio, I wanted to have an A5 book so I can use it with that. So I got this from the UK. This cost me $8.41, but then obviously there's postage on top. So what I do is I wait until I'm getting a number of different items so I can bundle them together, and that way I end up getting enough to get free shipping. So the shipping really doesn't come into it, but you've got to be aware of that. So at $8.41, with 50 sheets, which is 100 pages, that works out at 8 cents per page, which isn't too bad. Let's take a look inside. So as I said, it's 50 sheets, 100 pages. There's 22 lines per page, which means the line gap is 8 mil. But 8 cents a page, and that's not too bad. Let's take a look at how the ink's doing. Well, as you can see, we've got all the ink on there. Let's turn the page. There's nothing showing through at all. You know, yes, there's very slight, you know you've written on the other side, but you can't really see it. So this one, you can easily use both sides of the page. One of the benefits of this to me, I can rip my pages off easy. You know, yes, you've got perforations down here, but I just whip out the page when I'm fed up with it. Let's take a look at how it's performed. So definitely takes longer to dry than that previous notebook, you know, on all of them. So all of them take well over 30 seconds. The writing though, it's more interesting to look at. So we've got more variation coming through in the colours, especially here you can see the top of the C, the E, part of the T, the C, the O. Again, them two signs. Schuylkill, not really that much. There's some variation in the shading. With the Odinil, I've got to be honest, that looks fairly flat to me compared to the others. And same with the Draco. That doesn't seem to have much in the way of shading. But the Leonardo and the Draco are wetter nibs, so you wouldn't really expect as much coming out of that anyway. All in all, this is nice. As you may know if you watch a lot of my videos, I do all my pen reviews using this optic paper, but with a B5 size. So it's a paper I like, it's a paper I enjoy using. Feathering, well, I can't see any feathering either. You know, it's nice, you get what you see. Even with this Diamine Red Dragon, even with this wetter ink, no feathering that I can see. So let's take that one out. So that one was 8 cents a page, as I said. So the next pad we're going to look at is this one. This is the Otto A5 Dot Journal. And this cost me 13 Australian dollars. Now for that, I get 120 sheets or 240 pages. Let's take a look inside. Because this is a journal, and this is one of the things I like about it, it's got the bullet journal tips. It's got an index for your keys. It's got an index to the pages, which is really useful, especially if you're using this for lots of different things. Then we get into the paper. So, as I said, this is 70 GSM paper. I've got to be honest, it feels rough. It feels rougher than that cheap paper. 35 lines, so I've counted all these. I know it's a dot grid, so I'm counting a line from one to the next. Works out 5 cents per page, so that's not bad. The grid width is 5mm. Now, I find that's too small for my handwriting, which is a shame because I like to be able to use the lines. So if this was more like a 7mm, I think it would be perfect. But obviously, that means that you lose a little bit of the number of lines. But for me, I lose them anyway. Let's take a look over the paper. Look at that ghosting. Every single one of them is coming through. You know, even the fine. I mean, the extra fine, because it was black, I thought we might get that coming through anyway. An awful lot of ghosting, even a little tiny bit of bleed through trying to happen. So, yeah, am I worried about that? No, it's 70 GSM paper, but it means that I may not be able to use both sides. Now, if I can't use both sides, that means each page becomes 10 cents. So it's a lot more expensive than both of the other ones we've looked at. In terms of feathering, I can see here some feathering coming through on that T, on a number of these letters from the Draco. The rest of them, little tiny bits here, but again on the marine I can see a little bit. With the ancient copper and the new moon too, there is some I think, but not that much. And the extra fine, the Van Diemen's in Twisby Eco, yeah, that one looks not too bad. This paper, it sucks the ink up so much. I mean, look at the drying times on these. Not one of them has gone more than 30 seconds. And apart from the black, where you could say, well, maybe it was dry at 10 seconds, they're all dry by 10 seconds. So really fast drying. So yes, if you're going to be writing a lot of notes and don't mind the fact you can't use both sides of the page, this isn't actually too bad of an option. For me, this seems very, very rough. Right, let's go back to that Galen leather, to that Tomoe River 52 GSM. So, as I said, this is 200 sheets, 400 pages. Now, to buy this, it costs 32 Aussie dollars, and then there's postage on top. So, at 32 Aussie dollars, that works out at 8 cents per page, which is the same as the black and red notebook. And that, I've got to be honest, that did surprise me because, you know, when you are actually buying it and you're seeing $32, you think, oh, that's quite a lot of money, especially when it's $8.41 for the black and red. But when you work it out in that per page, it's surprising how it makes a difference. As I said, we can get either 18 lines, which is 10 mil, or 26 lines, which are 7 mil. I've opted to use that 7 mil one, that 26 lines. Let me just pull that out. Let's take a look over the page. You know, we do expect it's ghosted through. We expect to see that. Every single one of them has come through. You can see that there. Would that stop me from using both sides? Well, let me just go back. It doesn't. Look, there's a couple that I've used both sides. So that was the Draco. Once you start writing, yes, I can see it through there. And if it was a light ink, I don't think I could use both sides. But using the darker inks, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. You know, let me go through just to show you some more examples. So both sides are usable. Let's take a look at these inks. There's no feathering, not on any of them. It's nice, it's clean, it's crisp. The colours, well, they really pop to me. You know, black is black. Really hard to say too much about a black. But look at this, the ancient copper. The shading on this, it's all over. More so than it was on that black and red. The Narwhal Skullkill, I'm starting to see shading coming through in here. The S, the A, the D, the E, the N, the other E. Definitely seeing shading coming through. With the Ordinal, personally, I can't see much in the way of shading there. And the same with that Twisby Draco. But again, these two, I believe, are wetter nibs. I wouldn't expect to see that much because there's a lot more ink going down. At 8 cents a page, I think this is really good value. But the downside is you've got that upfront $32, which may be too much for people. And again, because of the postage, I can only get this when I can get a load of items together. So it's not $32 that I've got to spend, it's more like $150 to $200. So that's the Galen leather. I'm going to fetch back in that cheap one now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a writing sample in each of the books. Where I can't use the same page, I'm going to use the back of it instead. Yes, I know we're getting some show through on some, but I'm a skinflint. I don't want to waste the paper if I can avoid it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same pen. This is a Moonman M800 with a bot nib. The ink in here is Diamine Ochre. For this test, I'm going to move the mic close to the paper and then write the same phrase, just so you can hear that pen writing. So the only difference between each of them is the paper. It's the same pen, it's the same ink, and it's the same phrase. So now with the black and red, so here we go. So there's no room on this page. I'm going to turn it over now. When I turn it over, you've seen I've already written this twice. Both times I managed to mess up with the recording. This top one, I tried writing like this and I found the mesh was just stopping my hand when it got halfway over the page. So I folded it in half, which is the beauty of these mesh ones. And then this second one, I forgot to move the mic. So hopefully third time is the charm. Now again, this mesh is causing me problems. I believe that's not so much because of the pad. I think in normal writing it's fine. Why I'm struggling is to get everything stabilized for the camera. I've got my desk very, very low and the angle isn't my normal writing angle, so I'm really struggling. If I was to use my normal writing angle, the paper would be more like that, and I don't think then that this would cause as much as a problem. But anyway, that's the black and red notepad. The next one is the Otter. So here it comes. Again, because it's a journal, it's got this good page marker here. Right, let's do this one. I don't know if you can tell that, but that is so loud to write with, and it feels like I'm dragging the nib over the paper. Really not enjoying this. And then if we take a look at the ink, I know I've already said this, there's no character to it because the paper's just sucking that ink up so quick, it doesn't have time to develop any character when it's on the page. Our final one is the Tomoe River paper. So here we go, that everyday book. Again, that's all full, so I'm going to turn the page. Here we go. Now I know I didn't have the guide under there, so it's done a little bit all over the place, but that again is a nice paper to write on. It's not really smooth, but the pen here, this nib on here, it's not a smooth nib anyway. I do like a little bit of feedback and I get that on this paper. It feels to me almost like I'm writing with a pencil, so it's quite enjoyable. So let's take a look at all of these one final time. I'm just going to fetch them all in, stack them on top of each other, and I'll give my quick final thoughts. So the cheap craft book, it's cheap, 2 cents per page. It's rough. I wouldn't want to use it with any of my nice pens, but for the cheaper fountain pens, I don't mind it. But this is a nice rough book where I can use for stupid little ideas, stupid little notes, and as I've shown here, practicing my handwriting. So that is not a bad book. The black and red, one of my favourite papers. I don't like the fact it's only 22 lines. I would like to see just a couple more, so maybe up to that, maybe 26 lines like I'm getting through the 7mm paper on the Galen leather one. Nice paper to write on, shows some character, reasonable drying times, nice and smooth to write with. Not as smooth as the Galen leather one, but still it's nice. There's not a lot of drag. That feedback is really good. Enjoy this one. 8 cents a page. Yeah, not too bad. I think that's worth it. And as I said, the only downside, I have to order it from the UK, which means I have to make sure I'm not going to be paying shipping by ordering a load of different things. This Otto book, I'm disappointed. Really am disappointed by this. We've got it showing through. I wouldn't be happy to use both sides of the page, which means instead of the 5 cents per page, if I could use both sides, this works out at 10 cents. So the most expensive per page of the lot. Yes, it was $13. Yes, I can buy it in Australia. Would I buy another one? No, I wouldn't, because I'm so disappointed by it. You know, I don't like the way that the ink looks. There's absolutely no character to it. I see all that feathering coming through. It again, I'm going to use it for rough notes, and I think again, I'm going to try and limit it just to my cheaper pens. The final one, this Galen leather everyday book. 52 GSM Tomoe River. When you buy it, it looks expensive because it's $32. But when you work it out per page, it works out at 8 cents per page. So in that respect, it's not too bad. You know, I'm happy to use both sides of the page. I find that's not a problem. Again, I'll just flick through here, just so you can see some of the things I put down. So what I'm using this at the moment is for each pen and ink combination, after I've used them for a few days, I like to write down my thoughts about them, and that's what I use this for. You know, it's a nice one, it's nice and easy. I'm not using it at the moment in my Galen folio, but that's because I'm currently using up some Rhodia pads. So other than that, this would then be in there. Would I be happy to use this for note taking? It's alright if I'm only taking notes like I've done here where I'm just using one page. If I'm using multiple pages, because of the drying times, no, I wouldn't be happy for note taking. But other than that, just for general writing, at 8 cents a page, I'm quite happy to use that all the time at home. What order do I put these notebooks in? Well, at position number 4, it's got to go to this Otter book. Really disappointed. Position number 3 goes to these craft notebooks. Position 2, the black and red, and my favourite of these 4, the Galen leather, the everyday notebook with 52 GSM Tomoe River paper. I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, please hit that thumbs up button. Please give the video a like. Have you got one of these notepads? What do you think of them? Have you got any other ones that you could suggest I try? Yes, I've got Rhodia, I've got Clairefontaine, but I'm interested in trying out different notepads, really just to see what's the best bang for the buck. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can get new videos as I release them. I'll talk to you again soon.